Klein is sent to investigate a disturbance in a wealthy district, where multiple Beyonders are suspected of colluding over a powerful artifact. His seer abilities detect subtle cues that reveal the artifact's influence on both people and the environment. He quickly realizes that a single misstep could trigger chaos, emphasizing careful observation and patient strategy. During the investigation, Klein observes how the Beyonders manipulate perception and expectation, creating confusion and fear. He studies their techniques, learning how emotional triggers can amplify supernatural effects. This reinforces his understanding that mental discipline and subtle influence are critical when dealing with higher-level threats. Klein experiments with more advanced illusions in controlled field tests, blending predictive divination with perception manipulation. The results demonstrate that indirect influence often yields safer and more effective outcomes than direct confrontation, solidifying the strategic value of the fool persona. Civilians caught in the crossfire require careful intervention. Klein uses subtle cues and mental nudges to guide them to safety, testing how well he can manage multiple variables simultaneously. Each success reinforces the importance of foresight, discretion, and emotional control. He retreats to the gray fog to simulate complex scenarios involving multiple high-level Beyonders, unpredictable outcomes, and civilian safety. These exercises refine his predictive abilities, decision-making, and control over perception. The fog becomes essential for preparing for high-stakes operations without real-world risk. Klein integrates more elaborate tarot symbolism into scenario planning, using archetypes to anticipate actions, model power dynamics, and map potential outcomes. The structured framework strengthens both his cognitive processing and strategic planning, making the full persona more credible and effective in the real-world applications. During a field encounter, Klein observes a high-level Beyonder whose behavior is dangerously unstable. He identifies vulnerabilities and emotional patterns, using indirect manipulation to prevent casualties without revealing his abilities. This reinforces the principle that intelligence, patience, and subtlety often trump raw power in critical situations. He continues developing the full persona, projecting authority, unpredictability, and wisdom into the perceptions of others. Klein experiments with layered influence, subtly steering both minor operatives and powerful Beyonders without exposure. The persona evolves into a functional tool for strategy, protection, and intelligence gathering. A moral dilemma arises when a rogue artifact's containment could endanger innocence if mishandled. Klein weighs options using divination and predictive foresight, choosing the course that minimizes risk and maintains secrecy. This reinforces his guiding philosophy. Strategic control, survival, and subtle influence are paramount, tempered with ethical consideration when possible. By the end of this period, Klein has strengthened both his seer abilities and the full persona's practical application. He successfully navigates multiple complex scenarios involving high-level Beyonders, civilians, and dangerous artifacts. Klein's mastery of observation, indirect influence, and strategic foresight positions him to face increasingly more dangerous threats, solidifying his dual identity as both a covert manipulator and a rising force along the Beyonder pathway. Klein investigates a series of strange occurrences in a district where multiple advanced Beyonders are rumored to be experimenting with potion enhancements. Using his seer abilities, he detects subtle patterns in behavior and environmental anomalies, allowing him to anticipate potential threats before they emerge. Patience and precise observation are more critical than ever. During field observation, Klein watches how advanced Beyonders manipulate perception, both among themselves and with civilians. He studies the emotional triggers they exploit, learning to predict reactions and identify vulnerabilities. This reinforces his principle that subtlety and strategy are more reliable than raw power when facing superior threats. He experiments with higher-level illusions, combining predictive insight with perception manipulation to influence outcomes safely. Klein confirms that indirect control is safer and often more effective than direct confrontation, further solidifying the Fool as both a psychological and tactical tool. A volatile situation occurs when civilians are caught in the crossfire of Beyonder conflict. Klein intervenes subtly, using mental nudges and anticipatory guidance to prevent casualties. This tests his ability to manage multiple variables simultaneously, reinforcing the importance of foresight, discretion, and emotional control in high-stakes scenarios. Klein retreats to the gray fog to simulate complex operations involving multiple high-level Beyonders and potential civilian casualties. These exercises allow him to test strategies, anticipate outcomes, and refine his abilities to manipulate perception. The fog becomes an indispensable environment for rehearsing high-risk scenarios safely. He incorporates more intricate tarot symbolism into his simulations, linking archetypes to behavioral patterns and probable outcomes. This structured framework enhances his predictive capabilities and provides the full persona with both credibility and practical utility. During a confrontation with an unstable high-level Beyonder, Klein identifies key vulnerabilities and emotional triggers. Using manipulation and foresight, he guides the situation towards a safe resolution without revealing his powers. This reinforces the lesson that strategy, patience, and subtlety are essential and more powerful than direct engagement. He continues refining the full persona, projecting influence that conveys authority, unpredictability, and wisdom. Klein experiments with layered psychological cues, subtly guiding both minor operatives and high-level Beyonders without exposure. The persona becomes a functional instrument for manipulation, intelligence gathering, and protection. A moral test emerges when handling a dangerous artifact that could either neutralize the threat or endanger innocence. Klein weighs outcomes using divination and foresight, choosing the path that minimizes risks while maintaining secrecy. This reinforces his guiding philosophy. Survival, knowledge, and subtle influence must govern situations and decisions, tempered by ethical restraint when possible. By the end of this section, Klein has strengthened both the seer abilities and the operational capacity of the full persona. He successfully navigates high-risk scenarios, complex human and Beyonder behavior, and dangerous artifacts, demonstrating mastery of observation, indirect influence, and strategic foresight. Klein is now fully prepared to face the next wave of threats, with both his skills and his dual identity as a covert manipulator solidly established. Following the harrowing collapse of the Tinjin Nighthawks and his own lonely resurrection, Klein Moretti migrates to the sprawling, smog-choked capital of Hope, Backlund. This transition is not merely geographical, but it is also a total reconstruction of his own soul. He discards the remnants of the naive security company clerk and assumes the mantle of Sherlock Moriarty, an independent private detective residing at 15 Minsk Street. This persona is the crucible in which he masters the magician sequence. Unlike his previous roles, being a magician in the bustling metropolis requiring him to treat life as a permanent stage, he spends his days navigating the disparate layers of Backlund society, from the soot-stained alleys of the East District to the refined parlors of the wealthy. Every case he takes, whether it is finding a lost cat or investigating the kidnapping of a young girl, serves as a performance intended to digest his potion. He learns that the essence of a magician is the art of misdirection. The audience must see the miracle, but never the sleeve from which it is pulled. From a strategic perspective, this period represents Klein's shift into proactive asymmetric warfare. He is no longer backed by the institutional might of the Church of Evernight, which forces him to develop a pre-preparatory mindset. He realizes that a magician's survival depends entirely on the work done before the curtain rises. This leads to the integration of complex tactical maneuvers, such as the flaming jump, which allows him to teleport through heat sources and air cannon, a high-pressure invisible strike. However, his most vital tool becomes the paper figurine substitute, and this ability is a physical manifestation of his philosophy. It is better to leave a hollow image behind than to take a direct blow. By studying under the veteran detective Isengard Stanton, Clyde also refines his mundane investigative skills, realizing that Beyonder powers are most effective when they are final, unseen variable in a plan built on solid human logic. This phase of Sherlock is a masterclass in identity management, and he manages to be a helpful neighbor, a brilliant consultant to the police, and a rising shadow to the Beyonder world, all while maintaining a mental anchoring that prevents the madness of the sequence from consuming his original self. The evolution of the tarot card during this period marks Klein's transition from a lucky survivor into a grand orchestrator of the supernatural world. Sitting atop the gray fog, within the ancient, majestic palace that defies the laws of the physical realm, Klein finds himself in an increasingly precarious position. He must maintain the facade of the Fool, an ancient and unfathomable entity whose gaze spans across history, while internally grappling with the reality that he is a low-sequence Beyonder, lacking the raw power to intervene in high-level conflicts. To solve this existential and operational dilemma, he utilizes the mysterious properties of the fog to create the world, a dummy persona meticulously designed to act as a proxy within the club's transactions. This member is introduced as a gloomy, detached, and efficient hunter, a man of few words and ruthless pragmatism. The world provides a necessary foil to the more idealistic and high society members like Justice, Audrey Hall. The creation of the world is a stroke of strategic genius. It allows Klein to issue missions to himself, solicit rare materials without breaking his godlike silence, and test the loyalty and the reactions of his growing flock from a horizontal perspective. The Grey Fog thus evolves from a mere sanctuary into a celestial command center, where the fate of the empires is subtly nudged through the exchange of classified intelligence and the trade of lethally cursed artifacts. Analytically, the expansion of the club serves as the Klein's primary source of level skipping, intelligence essentially bypassing the traditional hierarchies of the Orthodox churches. Through the Sun, Klein gains a direct window into the forsaken land of God, a place forgotten by time and light. He learns of the giant king's court, the tragic fall of the city of Silver, and the true blood-stained nature of the Creator long before any Sequence 7 Beyonder should have access to such world-altering truths. This information acts as a divine currency, allowing him to trade common sense from the outside world for the rare, high-level ingredients required for the faceless advancement. Specifically, the biological essence of a thousand-faced hunter and the crystallized characteristic of a mutated pity barbary. By managing the delicate interactions between the cunning, the hanged man, and the innocent yet observant justice, Klein effectively constructs a decentralized intelligence network that spans the entire Lowen Kingdom and the turbulent Rorsted archipelago. He learns to master the power dynamics of the table, using the world to perform the club's dirty work, such as the cold-blooded elimination of the conspirator Lannis Vus. This act of retribution not only fulfills a personal vendetta for the Tinjin Nighthawks, but also cements the Tarot Club's reputation as a lethal, authoritative organization that punishes those who blaspheme against the divine. This period solidifies Clyden's mastery over perception manipulation, where he successfully convinces some of the world's most cynical and intelligent Beyonders that he is a slumbering deity awakening to reclaim his throne, all while he is actually meticulously counting copper pennies in a damp rented room in Bunkland to afford his next meager meal. This juxtaposition between the god of the fog and the frugal detective defines the psychological grit that Klein must maintain to survive the escalating stakes of Sequence 6. The pursuit of Jason Beria, the notorious Desire Apostle, represents one of the most significant tactical and psychological hurdles Klein faces in the streets of Buckland. As a Sequence 5 of the Abyss pathway, the Apostle possesses a terrifying ability to sense and manipulate the emotional fluctuations of those around him, turning a target's own greed, fear, or lust into a beacon for a lethal long-range attack. For Klein, this encounter is less about a physical brawl and more about a rigorous test of his clown and magician mastery. He realizes that to survive a predator that feeds on the heat of human emotion, he must become cold. He spends days in a state of heightened mental discipline, observing the Apostle from the shadows while using his spirit vision to detect the subtle, oily threads of corruption the Apostle leaves behind, emphasizing less direct engagement and more indirect manipulation. The investigation is a grueling exercise in patience. Klein must balance his role as an unofficial consultant to the police with his secret identity, all while knowing that a single moment of genuine panic could allow the Apostle to lock onto his location and end his life instantly. Analytically, this arc is the definitive proof of Klein's preparatory combat philosophy. He understands that a direct confrontation with a Sequence 5, especially one as experienced as Beria, would be a death sentence for a Sequence 7 magician. Therefore, he weaponizes the city itself by coordinating with Isengard Stanton and leveraging his knowledge of the Church of Steam's machinery. This coordination allows Klein to orchestrate a trap that uses the Apostle's own arrogance against him. The battle highlights the evolution of Klein's spirit body threads manipulation. Even though he cannot yet control them as a puppeteer would, he uses his awareness of these threads to predict the Apostle's movement with uncanny precision. The climax of this conflict serves as a masterclass in psychological warfare. Klein remains a blank slate, a void of emotion that effectively renders the Apostle's primary tracking mechanism useless. His victory reinforces a core strategic principle that Klein carries forward. Raw power is a blunt instrument that can be parried by a sufficiently sharp intellect. By successfully neutralizing a high-level threat like a Desire Apostle, Klein proves himself that he is no longer just a Nighthawk in training, but instead a more formidable player on the backline stage. This win also provides him with the apostle characteristic, a vital high-level resource that further fuels the Tarot Club's economy and his own eventual advancement. It is a turning point where Klein realizes that while he may be a clown on the surface, he's becoming the director of the entire performance underneath the surface. The narrative reach of Volume 2 culminates in the devastating Great Smog of Backlund, a man-made catastrophe of apocalyptic proportions that fundamentally shatters Klein's lingering illusions about the nobility of the Lowen Kingdom's ruling class. This was not a natural disaster, but a meticulously engineered ritual involving the demoness sect, the Rose School of Thought, and a faction of the royal family, including Prince Edesak. As a yellow, sulfurous fog descends upon the city, choking the life out of the impoverished East District, Klein is thrust into a desperate race against time. He witnesses the horrifying efficacy and efficiency of the Sequence 4. Despair power as the smog acts as a medium for a plague that kills thousands in a matter of hours. Amidst this chaos, Klein experiences profound personal loss. He finds his friend and informant, Old Kohler, dead in a desolate alley. The man who had once dreamed of nothing more than a warm coat and a steady job died clutching a small piece of ham he had finally managed to purchase, a gut-wrenching symbol of the disparity between the capital of hope and the reality of its victims. Analytically, this catastrophe serves as the ultimate catalyst for Klein's advancement to Sequence 6, Faceless. The smog is a grim revelation of the world's true face, one that is hidden behind the gilded masks of aristocracy. Klein realizes that his Sherlock Moriarty persona, while useful, is far too static and vulnerable to protect those he truly cares about in a world where gods and princes play with human lives like chess pieces. To survive and retaliate, he must become a ghost, a person with no fixed identity who can infiltrate any social strata and mimic any soul. The acting requirement for the Faceless is not merely about physical transformation, but it is about the dissociation of the self. By consuming the Faceless potion amidst the literal and metaphorical ruins of Backlund, Klein accepts a lonely destiny. He can now manipulate his bone structure, vocal cords, and skin pigmentation to become anyone, but the cost is a deepening sense of isolation. This moral evolution is somber and heavy. He moves from being a detective seeking justice to a fool seeking to balance the scales of fate. The volume ends with Klein standing on the deck of a ship, leaving a devastating Backlund behind. He has transitioned from a reactive victim of Zangwill's machinations into an active, invisible threat to the world's corrupt powers.